The beginning will be always tough, especially when you start a business. There's so much to explore, so much
Yeah.
to define. The processes. You have to be good at sales or marketing. You don't have to be good at those things, but you have to be prepared to do it.
This is the Freedom Mastery Podcast, the place to learn about rent to rent and other property investment strategies. Your host, Camille Domsky, has spent 5 years studying advanced property investing strategies and using creative methods to acquire houses. Now, he wants to help you reach your property investing goals. Let's get started.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Freedom Mastery Podcast. At the time of recording this podcast, we're actually at the end of 2025. And the guest who's with me today is a very special guest because this guest is actually not recording from the UK, but this guest is actually in Sweden right now, which makes this podcast even more international now. So I want to introduce you guys to Oliver Howard, a very positive person, a person who's got a very strong online presence and who's also a business owner at OHRE, doing online estate agency in the UK. I really wanted to invite this person because he's got a very, very good brand and he's got definitely a lot of good things to say about how to set up, how to start, and how to operate a successful property business in the UK. But even more interestingly, as I mentioned before, Oliver is in Sweden now, and what you can see in the background is, of course, an amazing Swedish view with something like 5 or 6 degrees over there. So Oliver is in a very nice and chilled atmosphere. So, Ollie, I'm going to hand it over to you. Please kick it off and introduce yourself and tell us who you are and what you do.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, my name's Oliver Howard, or Ollie. I am the founder, CEO, whatever you want to say, of OHRE. We are a predominantly online kind of hybrid style estate agency with a massive focus on marketing. I used to be at a kind of a bigger corporate agency before I set up on my own. Was their top performing agent, X and Y and Z, and tried to modernize it a little bit, but with a company that was 160 years old. Modern is not a term they like to use.
Okay.
So I felt the need to set up OHRE. It was one of those things where a lot of people look at business and they go, do you know what? It's a real dream of mine to go and set up a business. It's what I really want. And people are kind of shocked when I say I set up OHRE out of a feeling of necessity rather
Okay.
than like I really want to start the company because
Hmm.
uh, at the time, what was it, just over 3 years ago, estate agency in the UK was very old school still. Barely any marketing, the same kind of pointless calls that get made every day, and the same kind of harassment from agents. So we flipped it on its head and just went, do you know what? No offices, nothing like that. Fully online, fully digital brand, heavy marketing based. And we'll phrase ourselves as a marketing agency that sells properties as opposed to a property agency that does some marketing on the side. So OHRE was formed out of that. And 3 years later, we're here. But in the
Wow.
meantime, I think I've been an agent for now, what, 8 years, nearly 9 years. And there's been a lot of different things I've done along the way for the property side of it as well. Like I think we spoke just beforehand. So I own investment properties. I advise on certain investment properties. So I am I'm addicted to property porn, as my partner would say. So
Right.
that's that's
Okay.
that's that's me in a nutshell. Is just
Amazing.
I own my own company, and marketing is my absolute passion. It just happens to be in the property world.
Right. Okay. So interesting thing is where you are today. We completely understand. And to be honest with you, if you're in property like all in, then you'll probably know about, buy to lets and rent to rents and developments, flips. And you're certainly doing, quite a lot of this, which is
Yeah,
an amazing thing. But of course, to get to that point, you're not born in order to be a property investor straight away. Like,
no,
you have to develop your way up to that point. So you've already
100%.
mentioned you've been an estate agent for nearly 8 years.
Yeah.
How did it all come about for you to actually start anything in property?
Yeah, I think it was so. There's two factors of how I got into property in the first place. One was my dad's always been like into buy-to-lets and things like that. Back 20, 30 years ago when things were dirt cheap and you could get a really good rental yield and not even have to get a mortgage because it was so cheap type thing. And he's never lived in London, but they lived down in the south of England where you can pick up a 2 or 3 bed terrace house back then for maybe 20 grand type thing. So he had quite a few of them. That never it was an inspiration for me because I was just like, oh, dad just owns houses type thing. There's nothing super exciting about that.
Okay.
But I think the excitement came from when I actually became an estate agent in the first place because so my ex's sister's boyfriend, blah 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 blah. He was a real estate agent in Sweden as
Okay.
well, and he made a lot of money, like a lot of money. He had a nice house, he had a boat, he had a nice car, X and Y and Z. And I saw that and went, well, yeah, that looks quite good to me. Like that's quite interesting. And then I went through a breakup with that ex and moved back to the UK and went, you know what? That looks like quite a good lifestyle. Where's all the money in the UK? Let's move there. Let's put all my money on the fact that I'm going to go and do well. Because I've always been a people person. So I thought sales naturally would do quite well and go into a state agency and then ended up in London doing that. And I think the reality of where my interest in property came from was I built up a database very quickly of very wealthy people, like people that would just go and buy shit. They'd be buying a property once a quarter type thing as an investment. And I saw that and went, that's quite a good both money spinner and place to keep your money in an asset so that it's actually doing something for you as opposed to just sitting in the bank account. It's great to have a few £100,000 in the bank account. It's fantastic. But the reality is the interest you earn on that, yeah, you might earn £100 a month or something. But the reality is I'd rather have my money working for me. So that's when, after about 3 or 4 years in agency, I started making some really good money and started buying properties.
Okay.
And I didn't buy properties in London because I didn't have the capital. Well, I didn't have the capital available to do that at the time. But I had cash in the bank, and I didn't really want to have to get a mortgage. So I actually bought a few properties up where I went to university in North Wales, which was a student town. So you could basically guarantee that if you bought an HMO up there, you'd rent it out, like almost as a guarantee year-on-year basis. So I
Okay.
bought two HMOs up there, and a commercial unit with 2 flats above it as well. And they've done fantastically well for me, really, really well, because they just get rented out to the sports teams, and year on year they do that. We rent it through the university as well, so there's no council tax, there's no fees, there's no X and Y and Z, which is quite funny for me to have a moan about fees, especially as an estate agent. I
All
don't
right.
want
Yeah,
to
of
pay
course.
estate agent fees. But it's moving money around. I think that I said I got excited by it because I started to get the expertise in what's a good deal, what's not a good deal, what can become a good deal, what can I buy that's an absolute tip and maybe flip for a bit of money. So that's where the passion came from. I think is working in property day in, day out and seeing other people that I work with, basically me making them money through an investment. That's what kind of spurred it on for me.
Got you. Wow, that's absolutely incredible. So, as an estate agent or being an estate agent and then running your own company, you also learn ways how to optimize your portfolio so that
100%.
you pay as little money as possible and you minimize your voids, essentially eliminating them from your business, which is
100%.
incredible.
I think the reality behind one of my deals, the commercial deal with the flats and one of my HMOs came through the generic route. So it came through an estate agent posting it online. I put an offer in, obviously naturally a little bit of a lower ball offer, and just left the offer there until the owner finally decided that it was time to take it. But the other one came through. In my industry, I'm known as the spy. I can find anyone's details that owns any property, and I can find their mobile and email within probably 5 minutes of knowing the address. So what I did was I knew there was an estate agent that I met that was talking about a potential property on this road coming up that's a HMO. And what I did was I downloaded all the land registry titles for that road, found all the emails, and I just blasted emails to people saying, look, I'm an estate agent. I'm not looking to sell your property. I want to buy it. Let's do it without fees. I've got a deal progressor who can act as a middleman. Let's do that. And I ended up buying one of those HMOs at probably about, and it was 250 grand, but it was about 50 grand below market value
Oh,
because
wow.
we did it off market. They saved what, 15 grand on estate agency fees. They saved X and Y and Z. I covered the legal fees, so it was a no-brainer
A
for them in
win-win
the end.
for everybody.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
using what we know, like, and the contacts, it does come in handy. If you're not an agent, you don't know how to do that, there are people out there that can help you, like deal sourcers. They will take a fee from you, but the reality is, I think you can learn quite a lot of what I do quite easily. Type thing. It just costs you a bit of money to download the land registries, and that's it.
Wow. That's an incredible story, to be honest with you. And it shows like a bit of a step by step. And for you, certainly, it all started maybe by, as you mentioned, looking at your dad being an owner of
Mm.
multiple buy-to-lets. But on you had that
Yeah.
first insight into your dad's portfolio. But on top of that, did you do any formal education, or were you just strictly hands-on and throwing yourself in at the deep end?
So I'm fully self-taught in the property world. Like the other than so when I bought my first buy-to-let, obviously I went to my dad and said, look, can you just advise me on X and Y and Z just to make sure I'm getting the yield right and so on and so forth, but no formal education. And I think the reality for quite a lot of investors and property investors is that most of them don't actually have that much of an education in it to start with. You tend to learn the hard way as an investor. You do a deal, it goes tits up, and you learn from it very quickly.
Yeah.
Like best example is me. What I bought for me and my partner, we bought a house in West London, a flat in West London, and it was originally meant to be a flip. It was a short lease property, old. It was an ex-drug den. It was a bank repossession. It was an absolute tip. It was not a nice place. And we thought, as an estate agent, I looked at it and went, you know what? Short lease, not a problem. I've done loads of these for other clients in the past. It's not an issue. Until your freeholder ends up being an absolute dick and not allowing you to do X and Y and Z. And we learn a lot through for something like this again in the future. This is what we do, or this is what we don't do. But even in the estate agency world, like, it's just experience. You don't have to have qualifications to be an estate agent in the UK. You can just do anything.
Yeah,
I
of
think
course.
that needs to change, in my opinion. I think there needs to be some regulation around it, so that actually only the people that can do it are doing it, because it's not as simple as a lot of people think it is. But you don't need any, in my opinion. You can learn everything you need from podcasts, from YouTube, from even Instagram type thing, where I follow a few developers and they give you insights into certain things and what to look for. And even if you don't want to do that, find a good estate agent. Like, you could message me on Instagram. I do it for a lot of my developer clients. Pop me a message on Instagram, say, this is what I've looked at. What do you reckon the rental value is, or the end sale value is? And then if I buy it and sell it, I'll give it to you, type thing. And that's what we do. It's a reciprocal kind of nature. So
Wow.
good estate agents will give you that advice because they know that at some point in the future, they might receive some payment of it in the back end, essentially.
Of course. Wow. I understand that entirely. So, to be honest with you, you answered one of my questions that I've got here written down. Because one of my questions was actually, what comes first to you? Is it service or money? But I think you've already nailed this question with saying how you kind of operate, because
Yeah,
I'll let you answer this question anyway, and then I'm going to
yeah.
throw my view on it.
I think the way I look at it is, at the end of the day, money is fantastic. It's absolutely amazing. People think money buys freedom. It doesn't. Money buys security at the end of the day. It buys that ability to say, I don't know, my baby's broken her leg. Instead of waiting for 5 days to get into the NHS, I can pay private and we can go and get that sorted. That's what it gives. But the reality of the situation, is something that I've always prided myself on, is if you're the best at what you do, so if you're the best at service, or if you're the best at marketing, or you're the best, like you could be the best binman in the world. If you're the best at what you do, money comes with it. It's very rare that the best people in the world don't get paid for being the best in the world. So from my opinion, in a state agency, you are dealing with people and you are dealing with their most people's biggest asset, and most people's biggest asset they'll ever own. So if you provide good service to them, or you come across well to them, money will naturally come afterwards. You've just got to do your job in between, type thing. But service by far and away is the most important thing. But it's also something I learned the hard way recently. It's also learning when not to provide that service. And what I mean by that,
Wow.
and this is quite good for anyone looking to set up a company, is not all business is good business. It's just not the case.
Yes.
I've been through times where I've just taken on every property that I can take, and I've been sat up at 2 a.m. dealing with sellers that are screaming down at the phone at me for no specific reason. And that's not good business. This damages me. So at the end of the day, service comes first, but make sure you know who you're servicing properly. If you're good at giving services, or you're good at servicing your clients, money comes from that. And even if it's not an immediate thing, like in a estate agency, we do a lot of things called PR valuations, which is more, you do not expect them to come to the market right now. It's going to be in a year, 2 years time. But if you make a good impression on those people and you provide them with a good service there and then, you might get referrals from that, and they might be much faster instant wins. But as I said, just taking on clients for the sake of taking on clients, and having to provide that same service for people that just do not want to engage with you in the right way, it's a waste of time, it's a waste of money, it's a waste of your kind of your
Energy.
emotional range. Like
Yes.
exactly, I think as I said, I learned that the hard way with a deal that paid me very little money, but it was the hardest deal that I'd had. Like it was a £400,000 flat, and it was like I had a £4 million house under offer at the same time, and the £4 million house, easy, super easy, everyone on the same page, bang, 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 bang. This smaller flat, the seller was just he got drunk every night, and he'd call me at 1 or 2 in the morning and scream down the phone at me saying everything's too slow, it's not good enough, blah blah blah. The reality was the deal was going perfectly, and it was actually going really quickly. So you can tell very quickly if someone's going to be the right fit for you or not. So I just say bear that in mind. But if you provide good service, money will always come with it.
Yeah. Wow. I'm really grateful for what you said, because of course providing a good service is important, but it's also important to respect yourself in that business, because if you take on everybody, you're gonna think that you can
100%.
help the reality is that we cannot help everybody. And if we are more precise from the
No.
very beginning, the quicker we don't
Mhm.
have to go the hard way. Some people just still have to
Yeah.
learn from their own experience. It will be
You,
painful.
you, you'll
You just have to
absolutely
nail your
learn it.
market.
Yeah, you'll learn it one way or the other. Like, because at
Yeah.
the end of the day, when you set up a business, unless you've got big amounts of funding, or you're VC backed or whatever, you're going to be on your own money, and you're going to look at every source of income as, okay, I need money, let's just take it on. And I think everyone learns the hard way that that's not always the case. You always get one of those clients or one deal where you go,
Yes.
oh God, this was just not worth the time or the effort. Let's stick away from that. But it's all business, isn't it? It's failing forward. It is making sure that if you make that mistake, you learn from it and you don't do it again, essentially.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Running a business from the very beginning, let's face it, nobody will give you a manual. Nobody will tell you how to operate that business, because you're the business
No,
owner. You just have to, and by running that business, you will find your own niche. You're gonna find your own market. You're gonna find what works best for you, what doesn't work well for
absolutely.
you. So I think you're
And I
absolutely
mean that,
right.
like, when you say that, like, I think there is, for people that are out there thinking that, also there is no one that will give you advice in any way, shape, or form, because you think that, like, when I started, so my brokerage, it sounds ridiculous to say, but it's 3 years old. It's one of the oldest brokerages in London.
All
Like,
right,
it's
really?
like the self-employed model is only about 3 or 4 years old. So I set up on my own, and I had a year and a half worth of experience before other people decided to start their own things as well. And when I started, I was like, I can't ask for advice because everyone, there's a few people out there are my competitors. They're not going to give me good advice. And they didn't, to be fair. But the reality is, I've helped 3 or 4 other big names in the industry set up their own companies because they messaged me or they took me out for coffee or anything like that. And they said, look, I want to set up on my own. I really don't know the ins and outs. I'm a very good agent, but I'm not a businessman type thing. Is there any advice you can give for me? And I've helped them type thing for absolutely no money, no nothing. So the help is out there, but the reality is going alone is lonely. They always say it's lonely at the top because everything is on your shoulders. You are the accountant, you are the marketer, you're the lead generator, you're the HR, you're admin assistants, you're everything at the start. So you just have to bear that in mind. And I think something that someone said to me before is don't go into business being naive. Like, understand it's going to be hard, but it will be worth that in 12 months' time type thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. The beginning will be always tough, especially when you start a business. There's so much to explore, so much
Yeah,
to define. The processes. You have to be good at sales or marketing. You don't have to be good at those things, but you have to be prepared to do it. And then later on, of course, things just get a little bit easier because
absolutely.
you become naturally better at them. Eventually, you can start outsourcing things. But at the beginning, if I think the main
100%.
thing to run a business is to really just have this I can do attitude. Like, no matter what comes my way, I'll handle it. And
Yeah,
that is at
yeah,
least that's what I believe, the number one thing in business.
yeah.
Um, yeah.
It's a can-do attitude and it's consistency. Like the consistency of getting up and continue to do it. That's the hardest thing to keep going, in my opinion, to keep going. Like
Mhm.
my first year running my company was awful. I lost the money. I had to do certain things with financing to keep the company afloat. Now to year 2 and 3, excuse the language here, but make a shit ton of money. The reality is like I still in that first year, even though I was hemorrhaging money, I still got up every morning, got up, did a full day's worth of work, went to bed, got up, kept doing it 7 days a week, all year round, because that's the way that in my opinion, that's the way you win. And that's the way you beat your competition is to
Yes.
get up and do things that they're not prepared to do. And just hammer it like that. Because if you, after 3 months of running a company, go, do you know what? I'm not making any money. It's not going very well. I've got no clients. I'm going to give up. Cool, fine. Like you gave up before you even had the chance to let the company work its magic. Like I think when I talk to brokers, self-employed guys that come in to join my company, I say to them very blatantly, look, the reality is give yourself a year worth of savings that you can work with because you're probably not going to make that life-changing money for at least a year. It comes
Hmm.
from you doing the same thing over and over and over again for a year to get the name out there, get the brand out there, get you in estate agency, get you selling some of those big properties where you can go to other places and say, look, this is what I've done, bang, 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 bang. It won't just come to you. That was, to be perfectly honest, that was my expectation at the start was I think I was probably one, if not one of the normal residential estate agents in the UK for 2 or 3 years straight, the amount of money and properties I was selling. And I thought going on my own, everyone's going to come back and use me. It's great. Like, it's fantastic. The reality is, I took a couple of people with me, but that was it. There was one or two, and you do have to start again. So don't be afraid of having to put in that hard graft. You've got to do things you don't like to do. You've got to make those cold calls, even though no one likes making cold calls. You've got to do the hard parts so that you can actually stand a chance at winning in the not too distant future.
No, absolutely. Wow. I think this is a very pragmatic way of putting things forward. And
Mhm.
if somebody's scared of this, then perhaps this is not for them. And this comes to my next question to you, Ollie, which essentially is, do you think being an estate agent, being an entrepreneur is for everybody?
No, no, I don't. I think everyone's got an entrepreneurial streak in them, but I think it's the confidence to execute. I think so. I used to have a podcast as well that I co-hosted with a guy called Sam Mason, who we share very similar views, which is we both want to go out and win. We both have that hunger and drive to just absolutely push through. And I think the reality is for quite a few people, that's not the case. They might have the fantastic idea, but they just don't have the mindset to follow it through. Being a estate agent, the reality of being an estate agent is if you're good at it, it's not hard. It's really not a hard job. But to be great at it, it is hard. I think when you look at most London estate agents, the amount of stress and hassle it is genuinely to be an estate agent, and they walk away with sometimes 30, 35 grand a year as like overall salary, including commission. It's not worth it, in my opinion. It's just
Yeah, of
not.
course.
Like I said, I was the top earner at my old company, and I used to walk away with about 170, 175 grand a year, which for a corporate firm is unheard of. I was doing well, I was living life, and I could go and buy my houses. I could go and buy some nice art, go to nice restaurants. But for most people, I think, how do I say this? I think anything that's sales and people facing, you have to be a people person to be very good at it. In my opinion, you've got to be able to read people. You've got to understand the psychology behind sales, not just going out and saying, "This is the house. Would you like to buy it?" It's not that simple. So I think more people than we think have an entrepreneurial streak, but I don't think the majority of people have got the mentality to act upon it, to be perfectly honest.
Got you. So again, I had a bit of a question, but I think you've already touched base on it. You're pretty good at like foreseeing what I'm going to ask you, you know? That's probably the first time on a podcast that somebody's already answering my questions. But the question actually was, what do you think is the number one skill or the number one feature or the characteristic of a person to be a successful entrepreneur? You already mentioned that you have to have this kind of hunger in yourself
Yeah,
in order to execute the idea. Because yes, I
yeah.
agree. Everybody has got an idea, you know, everybody has got
Mm.
this entrepreneurial string, as you mentioned.
100%.
Not everybody will have this number one skill to actually push through every single day.
Yeah.
Would you still say this is a number one skill to have?
I think so. I think it's like I think it's also heavily dependent on the type of industry you're going into at the end of the day. Like if you're going into cake baking, for example, when you want to sell cakes, I don't think just to make a decent amount of money selling like custom cakes and things like that, you've got to be very good at your craft. Like you've got to be
Yeah.
fantastic at doing the cakes, but you don't have to be like a world-class salesman, and you don't have to go out and hunt for those leads. You can kind of make a Facebook page, make an Instagram page, and sell to your friends and family to start with. I think the top level kind of CEOs or entrepreneurs and things like that, they have this drive, this killer instinct to go and win. And that's why I say very regularly that if you were to put if you were to put someone that comes from a very wealthy family, wealthy background, and someone that lives on a council estate, and they had the exact same idea and the exact same amount of funding, the kid from the council estate that's had nothing is going to go and be the multimillionaire, and the wealthy kid is going to probably do well because he's got money behind him, but it's not that same drive because it's just this innate want to go and win that I think really makes the top level entrepreneurs. But at the same time, you say that, and I've seen many a company where someone's come up with an idea and they've actually joined forces with someone else who competition, and the ideas guy simply stays as that. They stay as an ideas guy, the guy that runs the company behind the scene, and they are a fantastic entrepreneur in the same way type thing. But I think for the most part, to be able to start the company, go through the hell of getting it off the ground, losing money to start with, blah, 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 and to keep pushing, it needs a certain mindset to go, do you know what? I'm not going to give up, and see what happens, and not giving up until you're essentially forced to give up, if you ever are. So I think, yeah, I think that killer instinct and that confidence is the main thing behind an entrepreneur. You can take an entrepreneur with a crap idea, but if they've got the ability to push it, they'll get somewhere.
Okay. So you were saying that person has to have this power, that strength in order to push through every single day. plus be that people's person, especially in real estate agency. If
I
you
yeah, I think
because you're
anything
selling a
sales related.
service,
Yeah,
it's a
I think
service-based
anything's
business.
yeah,
In
I think
order to be able to get things move forward for those people, you're selling a
mhm,
service. Do you think do you think that, being a people's person, it's a
mm.
skill or an attribute that you're born with?
That's a good question. I think it's a little bit of both. Um, I
Okay.
think I think it comes a lot from your upbringing and who you're around, to be perfectly honest. I think for some people, I think it's very ingrained in them of how they operate and how they are. I think it comes down to the reason I put down that I'm a very good people person is so
You are.
I have a really quite severe ADHD. And part of that is part of my ADHD is that I mirror people. Like I'm a what's it called? A mimic is one of my things.
All
So
right.
I can very easily get on people's wavelengths and adjust myself to that specific person. So that part of me is ingrained. But I've said it to my partner and I always will. If I can't make someone laugh on a viewing or an appointment or evaluation, I'm never going to do business with them because I can't find that connecting link. For some people, they can develop it, but I think when you try to force yourself to be a people person, it's very obvious that you're trying to force yourself to be a people person and it
Yeah,
becomes quite
yes.
robotic and stiff.
Hmm.
But I think it's all about finding your technique at the end of the day and what you're good at. Like I said, I've always been a people person. I'm very good at interacting with people, getting them on my side, being very friendly with them, and kind of using that as a technique to sell. But I've had colleagues in the past who are very, very good at what they do, who are not like people. They are just very aggressive in their tactics. They're very number oriented, and they do business in a different way, which is going about the stats, why it's a good purchase that way, why it's X and Y and Z, instead of selling them on the lifestyle and the happiness and so on and so forth. It's like, okay, this is what you're buying. You develop that on your own, but this is what it is. I think it just comes down to what you're good at and finding what you're good at. It is the honest
Yes.
answer, but that's what it is.
No, absolutely. I agree. I think on top of it, what I would say is 100% I agree with yourself. As a service-based business, you have to have great
Mhm.
skills at presenting yourself, connecting with people, because when people start liking you, then you can talk business. If you feel that there is no connection at the beginning, you already said it, it's going to be hard to do business with them.
Yeah,
Not everybody will have this natural ability to talk to people and
of
smile at
course.
them and talk to them. I believe if somebody is a little bit of an introvert and they don't feel confident doing this, then
Mhm.
perhaps, service-based business is not for them. Maybe they should go into
100%.
product-based business where they don't have to do a lot of selling because if the product is good, the product will do its own selling, right?
100%. I think that like not to stereotype in any way, shape, or form, but there is a reason why your tech millionaires and the coders and things like that famously are introverted
Yes.
and they're happy to sit at home and not actually have to communicate with anyone and just sit at their computer and do their thing.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of salespeople, the tech guys might look at them and go, "What an absolute wanker! He's out there being the biggest extrovert on the planet, throwing X and Y around." I think you're absolutely spot on, and it comes with different roles. Like
Yeah.
there's probably introverts in a state agency that are 5,000 times better than me at certain parts of the job, and there's bits where being an extrovert myself, there's bits where I'm 5,000 times better at them than other bits, and it's
Mhm.
while it's tough to say, your personality kind of does define if you're going to be successful, what section of the industry you're going to be successful in, and that's why, especially in the property world, you get a lot of the people that I message with quite regularly in prop tech who create databases and things like that were once upon a time estate agents who did not have the personality or the people levels to to thrive, but they knew they were very good at a separate section. So they went, you know what? Take the people out of it. Let me look at the numbers and the data, and I'll do that instead. So yeah, you're spot on. I think different types of people do very well in different sections of the market.
Industries. No, absolutely. I agree. I agree. That's great. So tell me, because obviously a little birdie told me that you're also a freshly squeezed father, right? So how do you combine your private life and being a father now and learning an absolute new part of your life with running in an online estate agency and still being a content creator on Instagram?
Mm. It's really it is really hard. It's been a real shift, and trying to explain it to people is like people that don't have their own companies. It's really hard to explain it to them because my company OHRE, that's my baby as well, and that baby's 3 years old, and I've got to look after that, keep that alive, keep that thriving alongside my actual baby that I have to keep alive, keep happy, and keep thriving. And it's a really tough line, and I consider myself incredibly lucky because my partner is a superstar. She's amazing. She does quite a lot of the stuff because she knows that I'm the one that makes the most money type thing, and that I have to be with my company like 15, 16, 17 hours of the day. The bonus that I get and the thing that I consider myself very lucky with is because it's a digital agency, because I work from home. It's a learning curve at the end of the day, and I think it's really hard to try and split your time between my company, which is my baby, and my baby, which is my baby, and making sure that both, without the company, we don't thrive. Without the baby, we don't thrive. And it's trying to make sure that it works. So I haven't fully figured it out. I don't know if I'll ever fully figure it out. I think the reality of trying to create something big and successful, something's always going to miss out at some point. It's a hard line to toe, is the reality. And I'm sure there's going to be many
Definitely.
an argument over the next 18 years.
Wow.
But it's my partner's the best because she understands that I'm building something that is trying to create generational wealth for us in 5, 10 years time, and that I'm doing it for us. I'm not just doing it selfishly type thing. But yes, for any
Right.
new parents out there that also run their own company, it's hard.
No, yeah, no, absolutely. Look, the reality is that nobody gives you a manual when a baby is born, especially when it's your first baby. There's never going to be such thing as manual. You can read God knows how many books, but you have to adopt it in your own life. And the best thing that you can ever have is to have a
Yeah,
great team. So you and your partner, it seems like you're a great team together, and you know exactly what you need to do in that team. So you're the
yeah,
striker, she's a defender, for example, and you know exactly what
absolutely.
your role is, and you play as a team. And to be honest with you, that's the
Absolutely.
best possible advice how you can probably combine your professional agency with your other baby, which is obviously a 6-month-old
Yeah.
daughter, right? So that's incredible advice.
Yeah, exactly. I think the thing that my partner gets, and she's been amazing, is that so she wants to at some point in the in the not too distant future, open up her own psychology/therapy practice, essentially.
Okay.
And I think what she's seeing is the effort that has gone into my company for me is that will be reciprocated when she has her company as well. Is that while it's tough now having to deal with me with the company and the baby, when it comes to her turn and her time around, I'm going to be with the baby and she's going to be looking after her new baby and things like that. And I think she sees that quite clearly. And while it's hard sometimes, having that, as I said, that security and that partner that really does get it, it is just it's a game changer, in all honesty. Because without her, especially in that first year, the company wouldn't have existed because she kept us afloat on her part-time NHS salary of about £2.50 a year, and she kept us afloat. And now I get to repay all of those favors and pay for everything and more type thing. So that's what
It's
it is.
great. It's great that there is an ambition from your partner as well, that she wants to do something else. And I'm sure that as a team, you will definitely build a game plan that will obviously facilitate it. It sounds like you're a great couple. It sounds like you're a great family. So to be honest with you, I would love to meet you guys like face to face because you've got such a great energy. And I'll definitely not hesitate when I'm in London. I'll not hesitate to contact you, and I'll say, yeah, let's go and
Absolutely.
meet let's meet let's meet for a coffee. Ollie,
Absolutely. I'm now inside instead.
okay, okay,
There we
that
go.
sounds
Let's
awesome.
try
That
that
sounds
instead.
awesome. Nice. Okay. So I think Ollie just tried to sort of push it on Wi-Fi, but I think he was getting a little bit cold in Sweden. So that I think I caught you here, didn't I? Um,
Yeah.
my question was, of course, I can see that you're very full of passion. You
hmm
really want to help people. Service comes at the first place. If somebody
hmm
needed some guidance, some help,
hmm
perhaps they would like to do some business with you in London, what would be the best way to contact you, Ollie?
So either probably Instagram is going to be the best place, and all of my contact details are on my Instagram as well. But my Instagram is at Oliver Howard LDN, so the abbreviation for London. And as I said, if you looking to sell your property, even if it's not in London, and you want some advice, drop me a message. If you're looking to rent your property, even if it's not in London, drop me a message. I'll give you some advice. If you're looking to start a company, drop me a message. I'll give you some advice. And especially, as I said, if you're looking at buying a development or if you're new to that kind of industry or buying a buy to let and things like that, and you want someone that's actually going to give you advice that's not geared towards someone making money off of you, pop me a message. I'm more than happy to help because, as I said, being in basically pretty much every property industry that you can imagine, I can give you some pretty good advice. And it's free of charge, obviously, and I'm more than happy to help.
Wow, not many people are prepared to do that in the industry. And to be honest with you, it aligns with me very, very well because I'm the same type of person. I do my
Yeah,
consultations for free.
yeah,
Nobody has to pay me up front before we start working together. In fact, it works both ways because I can also see if that person is the right fit.
yeah.
Sometimes we come to conclusion that this is not the right fit, and in my opinion, this is not the right thing to do in order to charge people for it. So
Yeah.
it's really nice.
It's
Um,
it's one of those things where at the end of the day, like there's a real difference between the entrepreneurial want to go out and win and do anything to succeed, and then there's the empathetic side of you that goes, do you know what? Actually, the reality is if you're going to be spending £200,000 on a buy to let or an investment, message someone and make sure you get it right, and the right person will give you the response. Because what I would hate is for someone to spend £250,000 on my watch and then to lose a shit ton of money on it, like and affect their family. So while I'm here and in my company life, I want to make as much money as I can and be the best at what I can. The advice I'd be giving you would be personal. It would be from my side. It wouldn't be a company based thing.
Amazing, amazing. I really want to say it's been a very, very pleasant, I would say pleasant and very funny episode of the Freedom Mastery podcast recorded with you. Definitely, you've got a very huge personality. For that, I really want to thank you for
Of
taking
course.
time, especially that you're now spending your time in Sweden. It's your holiday time, so I really want to thank you for that. I
Of
also want
course.
to wish you and your family Merry, Merry Christmas. I don't know how to say this in Swedish, but I'm sure you will find a way to do it.
It's good Yule. Good Yule.
Oh, Guyu.
There we go.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Smashed it first time. Very good.
Maybe because Sweden is so close to Poland, it's just
Yeah.
across the Baltic Sea, that maybe we could just align our languages. But yeah, tons of great value, tons of great advice. It was a proper Viking advice. Thank you very much for that. And
You're
I'm
very
looking
welcome.
forward to like meeting you face to face. And I really, really hope that everything goes well for you in 2026 and
Thank you.
even beyond that.
Thank you. That's very kind. You too. And thank you so much for having me on. It's been an absolute pleasure. And sorry about the Wi-Fi issues for both you and the people listening. I can't control that, but
Of course, it's
hopefully it
beyond our
makes sense.
control. We made it at the end, of course, of course. I'm sure that our listeners will be very understanding.
Good, good.
Take care and all the best.
Thank you.